Invisible Woman First Steps is so ridiculous right now that I'm genuinely not sure if she's just incredibly powerful or legitimately bugged. Invisible Woman First Steps is a 3/5 with an activate that says your end of turn abilities happen twice. And I think if she worked the way you would think she worked, then that would not be a very problematic card. She'd be cool, she'd be interesting, but she wouldn't be doing what she's doing right now. The thing is, if you are able to get 2 copies of her effect onto the board, they stack multiplicatively when you have 2 of them. So, for example, if you have an Invisible Woman First Steps and you Prodigy the Invisible Woman First Steps, you will then get 4 procs of your end of turns. Now, notably, this seems to just be messing up on having 2 of them. If you have 3 of them, it's 6. If you have 4 of them, it's 8. But specifically, when you have 2 of them, you get 4 procs. And that is the foundation of every deck we're going to talk about with this card right now. Every single thing that this card is doing is built on get 2 of them somehow, Frigga, Prodigy, Locations, Nico Minoru, and then quad proc your Havok, or quad proc your Marvel Boy, or quad proc your Evo Cyclops, or really quad procking anything is pretty messed up. So that's basically the thing you need to know before we jump into the video, is that right now, that is how she works. I do not know if that is an intended way for her to work. The fact that it's so odd with just 2 makes me think that this is potentially a bug that they will end up fixing, but we have no confirmation on it as of right now. As far as I'm aware, this is okay to do. We do not know if it is a bug or not, and again, every single deck playing this card is doing so to do this specific thing. So with that in mind, let's take a look at some of those decks. This list was put together by Butt, and I think you should think of it as the sort of default Invisible Woman First Steps list, because at baseline, it's doing some fairly strong stuff, and that fairly strong stuff becomes entirely incredibly messed up when you have access to Invisible Woman First Steps and a Prodigy. Being able to do that thing twice actually makes it happen 4 times, which is a ridiculous thing to do. Now, there are some weaknesses in this deck. It can be a little bit slow to set up. One other thing that's worth pointing out is you definitely do not need Fantasticar if you want to play a deck like this. There may be some need for her and Fantasticar to combine in the future, but right now, the way she works makes her so much better with just like procking stuff multiple times that you mostly just don't care about the 2 points that Fantasticar is able to deliver, because you are playing on a much higher level than what that is able to actually start mattering with. It's really here as your backup plan for when you don't do something ridiculous, you still get to play a fairly normal high evolutionary deck. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say this deck is absolutely broken or insane or anything like that, because fundamentally the deck did not change except in terms of point output, and I don't think it changed in terms of point output enough to really go over the top of the things that can actually beat the crap out of it. So for example, one of the things that you'll do a lot with a deck like this, or at least some of the time, is once you have established your Prodigy and Invisible Woman, you might soak the entire turn 6 and get 4 6 procs on a Sunspot, and then you get 4 33% chances to have your Bruce Banner transform. All of that stuff is very on the radar at this point. I think people are kind of catching on, and after a video like this, people are going to be really catching on. In other words, they're going to be playing Killmongers, and it's going to be a bad time for you if you start relying on these plays. So for that reason, I think that the versions of the deck that look like this end up being fairly fragile because they encourage you to invest in these cards, especially Sunspot, that can be really, really, really easily dealt with. Now, all of that is to say, this is definitely a deck that does numbers very well, and I expect it to do genuinely powerful stuff. And now that it has this incredible high roll in it, it definitely becomes a much more viable part of the metagame. You may have noticed that I've been pretty down on various versions of Fantastic card decks recently. I just haven't really thought they had what it takes. And while this doesn't change the fundamental profile of being fairly weak to tech and not having any game at all for anyone who is trying to do anything that goes over the top of you. Like if you run into a discard gamer and they get a good draw, you are not playing the same game of Marvel Snap. They just beat you and you die and you go away. There's stuff like that for this deck. It's very much only points, no interaction, but that also makes it a little bit easier to play, which means that I think it'll be a really good thing for people who are relatively low ranked to try to play. I have a special guest that is on theme with this next deck. It is, of course, my Kitty, who desperately wants to escape, and Kitty Pride, who wants to escape the board every turn. Now, one of the reasons that I wanted to go for a Kitty Pride shell here is because of how easy it makes it to get Invisible Woman First Steps and a Prodigy. You just put Invisible Woman First Steps in her own lane, Kitty Pride Prodigy, you get your second copy of it, but also Prodigy has a lot of reasonably good targets in a deck like this anyway. A second Thena is obviously really powerful. Being able to Juggernaut early on 5 and then Juggernaut again on 6 is something that you have access to. You have a lot of genuinely interesting ways of using the card, which is why I wanted to try it in a Kitty Pride shell. Here's the problem. I am only really sure that I like Havok, Thena, Prodigy, Invisible Woman First Steps, and Kitty Pride. The other 7 cards in this deck might just be entirely incorrect. I am pretty sure that something like that, doing these kind of things, is a powerful thing to do. I am fairly confident that this level of interaction, having a Juggernaut in here, being able to distribute your points in a more dangerous way, that might be the future of this archetype. I really enjoy it. I've seen a bunch of different stuff. You'll also notice that we're playing an Electra in here. That's because of what I just talked about with Sunspot. When people start doing Sunspot stuff, you get to blow it up. You end up just having a million targets. This is sort of like a hate card here, but honestly, I think she is a fine addition to this package. But the real question is just, what are the other 7 cards supposed to be? Because I tried a bunch of stuff. I tried with AV, I tried without AV, and I'm just not overly confident in any of it, but I do keep winning, which means that the bones of this deck very powerful. Now, keep in mind what happens when you get Prodigy and IW. You are going to get a 16 power Havok. That's what that means when you get both of them. But in the rare situation where you are copying them, you end up in energy hell, I guess I would say. I lost games because Havok can't go below 0 energy, and so I had one eat 4 energy, and there was only 2 left for the other one to eat. That will come up. Now, Nico Minoru, I am pretty confident is supposed to be in here. She is almost entirely a copy bot. You are copying Invisible Woman, obviously, because you want to do that kind of stuff. You can copy Sage. That is usually a phenomenal target for that as well. That's really all she's doing in here. Very rarely is she doing anything else. She is a copy bot that sometimes gives you a little bit of location control. This is the kind of thing that I think if this stuff ends up being a bug, you'll take a pretty hard look at as like the actual thing we're supposed to be doing with this card. I've been more impressed than I thought with the Doom 2099 stuff in this context. It's like, again, not the greatest thing on earth, very predictable. But again, being predictable is an upside and a downside. At high ranks, it can be a bit of a downside because predictability means that you're better able to be played against. At lower ranks, it means you're playing an easy deck. And this is a really easy deck that requires no knowledge of interactions whatsoever. Effectively, what happens in this deck is that Invisible Woman gets to be a 3/5 Psylocke, in that Psylocke in a deck like this, usually aimed at getting an extra Doom 2099 proc. Now, you don't have to run a crappy 2/2 to get an extra Doom 2099 proc. She will just make that happen for 3/5. It's very legit. Like, this is a deck that does really legit stuff. There is, of course, one really notable problem, which is if you don't draw Doom 2099, your deck doesn't work. Because like every other card in here is predicated on like, oh, I'm going to fill up the lanes, right? You have the Human Torch in here, you have Fantasticar, you have the Thing, you have all these cards that make you want to fill up the lane. And you're just not doing that if you don't play Doom 2099. It just isn't actually happening. You just aren't, you will not have enough points to compete if you do not play Doom 2099. And that is sort of the ultimate failing of a deck like this, where it is very reasonable when you are doing the thing your deck is trying to do, but far from unbeatable. And then when you don't do the thing your deck is trying to do, you absolutely fall apart, cry yourself to sleep, and lose every game. This list is built around cards that say end of turn on them. And at this point, if you say end of turn on you and what you do is give power to stuff or gain power, it is almost certainly worth putting you in a deck with Invisible Woman and Prodigy, because that is going to be able to quadruple that. When you get 4 Thena procs gaining 12 power, or 4 Havok procs gaining 16, or 4 Marvel Boy procs distributing 12 power, you start to understand what I mean. This stuff is very much in the raw phase right now. A lot of what this reminds me of is after Captain Carter got her changed to 3 cost, there was a lot of hubbub about the ability of Captain Carter to go in Moonstone decks. And that made the sort of metagame a little bit awkward because there were a bunch of people who weren't aware of how that stuff worked. So for a couple days, you were just collecting free wins by just playing Captain Carter Moonstone because people just didn't really get what was going on. They didn't have a good understanding of your range. And this deck is really all-inning that, right? It's saying, you don't know what the hell I'm doing. You have no idea how this interaction works. And I can confirm because I lost because I forgot that Marvel Boys would distribute as much power as they did at the end of the game when there's 2 Invisible Women. This is a deck that has massive ability to create power in ways that are actually really hard to interact with. You have Kyera to prevent anyone from doing the Killmonger stuff. Shadow King doesn't work because this stuff is all end of game. So unless they're going to play normal Invisible Woman, they're not going to be able to pull that off. And so this stuff all happens in a way that almost makes it less vulnerable to tech by the nature of what it's doing. So you're getting all this stuff at the end of turn, and it's like everything that has the points to be Shang-Chi doesn't have those points when your opponent would be able to play Shang-Chi. Most of the things that would be reasonably Shadow Kinged don't have those points when your opponent is able to reveal a Shadow King. And so you also have this just massive amount of numbers that is shockingly hard to interact with. And I think that at baseline is just a very powerful thing to do. Keep in mind, though, when that doesn't happen, when you aren't prodigying this stuff, you are a pretty damn low power deck playing a pretty damn fair game. And I think that a lot of the way this card is going to work, assuming this is how it's intended to work and they're not going to change anything about it, this kind of stuff, figuring out what you are when you don't do it, is going to be the key. And it's why the 2 decks I talked about at the top are the 2 decks that I sort of recommend the most. Because even though I haven't figured out the kitty stuff perfectly, I know it's good enough when I'm not doing the broken stuff. And when I'm doing the broken stuff, well, that's awesome. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of high Evo stuff, with Fantasticar, I know it's good enough. And I know that like it will be an okay backbone for a deck when you're not doing the broken stuff. Whereas decks like this are much more all in on I am making this Prodigy IW thing happen. Last up is IW Surfer, which I am talking about in this context because if this deck is real, we are screwed. If this deck ends up being a legitimate thing, I just can't imagine we live in a reasonable world anymore. And what this deck is doing is just doing, reasonable points. Look at all our points, look at all our points. But if this deck is real and it's not even using Prodigy yet, like I found this list running around and it was doing reasonably well. And that freaks me the hell out because if this list is real and it's not using Prodigy and then it adds this sort of high roll stuff into it, you know how I talked about the backbone of a deck, right? And how the IW stuff as a backbone or needs a backbone that you can attach this high roll to. Surfer is a damn good backbone. It is better than either of the other backbones we talked about. So if people are able to sort of finish this hybridization and pull it off, I'm very scared. And that's sort of what I put this list on here to sort of get you guys thinking about. Because this is a card that there is so much up in the air about, from how it's supposed to actually function to how to best build around it. And that makes it pretty hard to analyze because there is so much going on here. Here's how I feel about her baseline. I think that if this doubling interaction sticks around, it will be what the card is about. And that is a fine thing, probably. I don't think it's actually broken, but I am worried that it will not stick around just because it doesn't make a ton of sense why 2 of them double, but 3 of them go to 6 and 4 of them go to 8. It doesn't continue being exponential. It's just exponential on 2, and that's weird, and I don't understand why. So that said, a lot of the ways in which we are sacrificing other parts of other decks to fit this package in is something we only do because the payoff from that package is so massive. There is so much upside in a 16 power Havok that you just kind of do this stuff, right? And that is a very valid deck building choice right now. But it might not be a very valid deck building choice if they change it, right? It might not make any sense at all if they change it. We are very much going out of our way to do Invisible Woman copy stuff right now, and that might not be how the card works in a week. So I really want to give people a huge note of caution before they pick up this card. There's going to be a lot of videos, including this one, that are going to have titles like Invisible Woman is broken. And I'm going to have that title because I think she is, but like not the win rate way, like the I think this card isn't supposed to work this way. And, you know, whether or not that's ethical, I'm not actually sure, but I do mean it. As far as the baseline power level, if this card stays the same, I think it actually would be not balanced. It would be like one of the stronger things to do, but it reminds me a lot more of when discard first got figured out and people were like, oh my God, mid-range is dead. Discard is crushing it. And then, you know, about 6 weeks later, people are used to the output range and the deck is a lot worse. Or when Captain Carter came out and people, or when she got her buff to 3 cost and people were like, oh my God, Captain Carter is busted. There's Carter Surfer, there's Carter Moonstone. This stuff is ridiculous. And she's just like a fine card now. That's sort of what I expect for Invisible Woman first steps right now, if she stays the way that she is. If she gets changed, I almost think I'll have to remake this entire video because so much of what she does and how people are building her is predicated on this X4. So as big of a warning sign as I can give you, right now, I think this card is awesome and very strong. I do not know if it is supposed to be as awesome as it is. And that is a real red flag here. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I have been KMBest. You have been phenomenal. I may or may not put some gameplay on this one. I normally don't. So if you don't see any gameplay after this, that's why. But I kind of think it might be worth showing you guys the interaction in some way. So I might throw a couple games on here just so y'all can see what it looks like when you do 16 power Havok stuff. As always, thank you so much for watching. I've been KMBest. You've been phenomenal. Nothing can change that. And I will see you in the next one. It's your sub. Thank you very much. I've lost to Binks twice, which is the death knell of any good deck. Like, if we're being real, the fact that we're losing to this, not to him specifically, but to what is undoubtedly like a shenanigan type deck. Now, granted, I have finally drawn Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Woman and a bunch of other shit. So we'll see how things go. But we're losing to fucking like Clea Marvel Boy. That doesn't seem like a realistic thing. Oh, that's life. I'm staying. I'll lose to Clea Marvel Boy all over again. I don't give a fuck. I've got a 233% chances for Bruce to win. Tell me. Let's do this for 8. I'm very stupid. Surely Bruce doesn't fuck me this time. Bruce always wins this. Bruce always wins this. Wait, Bruce actually always wins this? Holy shit. I've never seen that in my entire fucking life. Bruce actually always wins this? That's insane. He doesn't even need to transform to always win this. It just happens? Oh my god, that's my goat. Also note, he doesn't transform, the piece of shit. Well, wait, maybe he will now that it doesn't matter. Fucking asshole, Bruce. You fucking asshole. Victory. I hate you. What do I want? What do I want? I think our cards, they have such decent bodies that I don't think we ever do that. Our cards and the bodies they have are so crucial that I just don't think we're ever in that business. I can't say for sure I'm right here. I feel like it's definitely potentially up in the air. Okay, so we have a Mr. F proc here if we want it. We need the F proc to be good. There it is. Okay. I'm kind of wondering if they're looking at Shadow Kinging and then somehow winning the middle off of like Toxin Shadow King. I don't know. It's probably okay. Probably okay, but it might not be genuinely. Let's find out. Are we serious? Okay, sure. Yeah. Awesome. Guess I'm losing. Oh, never mind. Eat Havok, eat Havok. Human Torch gets 2 more. Yay. Nico copying Invis is like low-key just enough of a reason to run her, I think. Like, is it ever happening regularly? No, not really. But it's pretty chill. Can we outstat a Dakin? I guess it sort of depends on how many multipliers they have. We're gonna fucking need to. Oh my god, they got a vision? Well, that's actually really interesting. Dakin, Frigga? Probably dead. Those are both 16. Maybe they fuck the Grandmaster. Okay. They don't have a guy that discards their whole hand here. So this is 5 over here. We should win if we win Crown City. Did we snap this? Sure. Adding a lot of... Don't you always lose? How do I always lose? I don't know, maybe. I just want to know how many points this is, and I want it to be for 4 cubes if I do it. Sage better. That might be actually true. Torch is also a... I don't think it'll matter. The MODOK makes sense. They go to 16 in the middle. Shard. Bunch of shit. Shard. Yup. I'm pretty sure we beat it. Assuming I didn't forget to activate. This should be 12 off of her and then 16 off of the Havok. Look at that. I know Vision's moving. Stage would have been better. There would have been tie breaks that we might have lost, but as far as I can tell, it just wouldn't have happened. What is my ordering supposed to be here? It's actually nuts. I think they get the prod. Oh, they don't get the prod. Okay, we win then. Is there some shit that can kill me here? Or am I just snapping him out of here? Goodbye. I don't know. Play Fanta Havok Energy. That's not how Havok works. It's not Sunspot. Havok will eat it regardless of if it's there. All right, let's see what the fuck Binks is doing. What am I gonna get blown out by? Flames of the Saltine. And Flames of the Saltine, Binks is pumping me. Binks is pumping me trying to get unmuted. Binks is pumping me trying to get unmuted. God fucking bless. I don't think I can lose here. I mean, like, what if it turns out I'm wrong? But also, like, you know. That thing eats a lot of energy and is bigger than my Thena, but does not win that lane. Oh, wait, no, it'll win it off the M-Boy procs, yeah? There's a lot of M-Boy procs. Maybe we lose. I think we can lose this. Is it losable? Because of the way Havok's work, I think it's losable. Yeah, we lost. We lost. We're done. We're dead. We lost. Oh, wait. Yeah. We died. We lost. That Havok ate too much of our energy, right? Because we only have 2 left to eat on the left. Because of the way Havok's work. I missed it. I'm a moron. I forgot about that. The frustrating thing is, I was just supposed to play Havok on the left. I completely forgot about every Marvel boy gives his entire board +8. I forgot about the 16. There was a different way to handle... Well, there definitely was a different way to handle that if I had had a brain. Nice. I don't know if I like that play. I actually did like that play. It turns out I did like that play. Would've lost. Thanks, Juggernaut.